And with that, we are on the air, and I am here with author James Schannep. And I hope I said that right. I didn't really ask you beforehand, so I didn't murder that, did I?
You're close. It's just Schannep. No emphasis on the last syllable.
That's author's whimsy there, if you will. I'm just gonna call you that. But okay.
Sounds good.
So you are the author of your title is Click Your Poison, and it's kind of like a choose your path type series of books. And you have 3 of them out right now. Can you tell us a little bit about the series and maybe your latest one?
Yes. So people call this, interactive fiction or game books. It was really popular with young adult or children's books in the U.S. Choose Your Own Adventure, Give Yourself Goosebumps, Fighting Fantasy over in the UK, and basically I decided to try to revamp that type of interactive storytelling for an adult audience. So my books are novel length. The choices are, a little more complex and dark, and there's over 50 endings and 3 totally unique books within each book that you can explore through. And my first one, Infected, just points you as the main character. Would you survive the zombie apocalypse based on your own choices? The second one, Murdered, is a murder mystery that you're trying to put together the clues and find out who the killer is. And the third, the new release, is Superpowered, and that's if you were given one of 3 superhuman abilities, would you then be a hero or a villain or just someone who moves around in a city having superpowers?
Now that latest one, I have it, and I'm actually saving it for a vacation, so I haven't got to that one yet. But you get to actually choose your ability, or you get to choose like if you're a villain or not, or is
there are 3 different abilities in the book. Those are the 3 main storylines, and so you get to then play through reading it as each of those 3 abilities, and within those you can be a hero or a villain or whatnot.
And when I'm trying to like wrap my head around how one would write this, I literally get like a brain freeze. Can you give just a brief over, like how do you have to like write all these different stories and then just figure out a way how you shuffle them all in, or how's that process for you?
Yeah, basically I have to keep a lot of flowcharts. It's kind of like my roadmap of where I've been. It can definitely get confusing, like, well, has this character died in this path yet, or are they your friend, or that kind of thing. And so I do have to take, copious notes and compare them against each other, because it does become too much to just hold in my brain at any one given time. And I play around a lot with that in this new book, where one of the superhero tropes is visiting alternate universes to see, like, say Superman would go visit like Bizarro Superman, that kind of thing. So I played around with that, so you can actually, minor spoiler alert, you can actually move from one story to another depending on your own choices there. So I had to make sure I had not only the different events, but chronologically what was happening in each path at the same, local time.
See, every time when I think of that, I'm imagining like an entire wall within a whole house that's just dedicated like a CSI murder investigation. Like I have to pin this.
There's part of it there on the far wall. Let's see here. Here's a fun one. So I go back and do it all digitally afterwards, but I find it easier to do pen and paper initially. But so you can see the arrows. That's a pretty confusing one.
That's like
quite a bit of options
right there.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my CSI.
Your roadmap to finding the killer and solving the case type thing.
Yeah.
So with all that, I know I've read things like that growing up as a kid. Like you're saying, you're trying to gear it a little bit more towards adults, and I geek out about it. I'm like, sweet, I can actually choose my path again without feeling like I'm reading the Hardy Boys. And
yeah, and there are swear words and violence and sexual situations. I don't think it's necessarily R-rated all the time, because it is your choices. But I do have a lot of teen readers, but I would caution parents to not really give it to their young children. It's definitely You know, if you let your kids watch The Walking Dead, then they'd probably be fine with Infected. But if you think that kind of thing would scare them, then you probably need to steer away towards something else.
Now, I haven't read that first one, Infected, yet, but it was one that first drew me in, I should say, just from the picture of it. Because at first I'm like, that's a skull. And like, is that worm? What is that? And I kept looking into it, and that's when I first found out that you wrote the Choose Your Path type book. And I read the second one. I didn't solve that mystery. I died, and well, I always pick that wrong path. That like I'll go down that alley. I'm sure it's just like a ploy. Like every time you do a multiple choice test, you're like, I should pick C. No, C's too easy. Let's go with B.
I actually started putting my choices in a random number generator just to make sure that I wasn't accidentally putting any bias in the order of them. So every choice order is completely random. I did not pick the order of them.
That's probably good. I think some of the ones that I chose, like when I read them, sometimes I go, "Oh bullshit! I could have avoided that. I could have dodged."
Nice.
That's my big crux when it comes to any type of gaming type situation. I'm like, that's unfair. Like, come on, you can't do that.
Yeah,
But
you mentioned the skull on Infected. That's actually a play off a Salvador Dali photo. You know, give that a Google. He did that with women back in black and white, and I just thought it would be, you know, an iconic homage to that to recreate it with zombies.
I thought it was really cool. Now, do you have somebody, or do you do your own covers, or do you?
No, I hire artists to do the covers. Nikki Jansen did the first two, and Brian Silviera did the third one. He's actually working on his own graphic novel right now. Very talented comic artist.
Yeah, you can kind of tell through just the cover of Superpowered that, like, oh my god, this is like a comic book.
Sure, yeah, that's what I was going for. I mean, it's obviously prose and written word inside without pictures. That's the main thing away from the children's stories. There's no pictures in my books, but yeah, the cover is supposed to definitely evoke a comic book. You know, we put up in the upper corner, there's the 50 plus endings instead of like the old 50-cent logo. So we tried to play off the format of a comic book cover quite a bit.
Well, with the genres that you've picked, the first one's zombies, the second one's just kind of a murder mystery, and the third one's superheroes. Do you pick these books as a, I don't want to call it not an outlet, but like the things that you'd want to read? Is that what you put in them, or are you looking for something?
Absolutely, yeah. I know a lot of authors brand themselves as a specific genre, and you know, they pick the one that they love, but they're like, well, I can never really leave this because that's what my readers expect. And for me, this is very liberating to be able to pick any genre that I could possibly want. So I have probably right now 10 ideas for other Click Your Poison books, and all I do is go, okay, look at my note files. You know, this one I've written by far the most notes for, so it's probably the one I'm most interested in writing right now and, you know, most passionate about. So I think that passion then comes through for the reader. So yeah, I just get to write whatever excites me the most, basically.
Nice. Now, with are you planning on doing anything besides a Choose Your Path book, or do you really just want to stick to that type of format?
Eventually, I have another novel series planned out, and my eventual future plan is to do kind of a crossover where there is a Click Your Poison book in that novel universe. And then, you know, you don't necessarily play the main character of, say, like 5 or 6 novels, but you get to live in the world and interact with the other characters in that one crossover book.
Wow.
So I'm going to kind of, you know, intersect the two series.
Nice. Now, are you currently working on your next one, or are you still trying to formulating which one?
I am working on my next one. I'm going to do something slightly different. So in all of these, you play the main character, and it, you know, refers to you, and it's genderless and ageless and raceless. It's supposed to be so you can literally walk into the book and experience it as yourself. This next one is going to be in the same universe as Infected, and actually this is my first announcement of it. So on your interview here, where you get to basically play as the other characters from the first book and see how how they survived the initial outbreak. So it's more of a character study from an author point of view. So I try to refrain from giving a lot of background in the other books on the characters, since it's supposed to be you as the reader. But in these ones, you might play a high school age girl, or a middle aged military man, or a kendo expert who runs his own dojo. So there's a lot of more character development in this book. So it's kind of a challenge to me as a writer.
Nice. And I brought that up mainly because when I look in your background next to the awesome stormtrooper cutout,
yeah,
I see that one little gap for another book. I'm like,
yep, there's room for it.
So I'm going to dip into the first book real quick because I haven't read it and I want to.
Okay.
If you were in a zombie survival type situation, which one would you most like if you had to pick from the genres of zombie movies that are out there, like Walking Dead or Dawn of the Dead, I mean, any of those, is there one that you'd rather be in or rather not be in?
I guess as far as, let's see, I'd say in Walking Dead, the people are far more dangerous than the zombies, which I guess could be a good thing or a bad thing, but I think I'd probably steer away from that one just because I feel like the first time I helped anyone, they would immediately betray me.
There's a lot of trust issues going on in that one.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have like the 28 Days Later or World War Z, the movie universe, where they're sprinting and crazy, and it seems like even if you're completely prepared, there's no way you're going to be able to, spite them. So that I might steer away from that one too. So maybe more of the Dawn of the Dead, like you mentioned. That'd be a pretty good one to go hang out in.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you on that one. When you have sprinting zombies, or if you do like Resident Evil, where it's all like mutating zombies.
Yeah, mutants. Yeah.
But count me out. I'm already dead.
Right. Yeah. My wife, I make her, watch a lot of these things with me, or she'll just come in while I'm looking at them, and she's like, at some point, why don't you just give up? These worlds are so terrible, and every day is just awful that I feel like death would just be so much sweeter. Like, oh, my wife, the philosopher.
Way to throw a wrench into all that. Thanks.
Yeah, right.
Now, with things like that, do you ever do, I mean, I don't know if you want to call it research, but do you read zombie type books? Like, have you ever read the Max Brooks's, How to Survive a Zombie Apocalypse type thing?
Yes. I would consider it research. I do a lot of research. With Infected, I read as many zombie books, movies, TV shows. I just kind of immersed myself as much as I could. And I will say that his zombie survival guide actually is a very practical book. I mean, you can teaches you things about farming and things that may not necessarily be limited to the zombie apocalypse, but it's very logic and grounded. So I will say that if you have read and paid attention to that book, your chances of doing well in Infected probably just went up.
That gives me good hope, because I did read that, and it's one of those, even if it wasn't a zombie apocalypse, but any kind of apocalyptic event.
Sure. Yeah.
That book just might come in handy one way or another.
Yeah, I'd say so too. And for Murdered, it's set in Brazil. I did a ton of research on Brazil and their politics, and kind of what Rio and São Paulo were like in preparation of World Cup and the Olympics. And that's part of why I chose that, because I wanted to do kind of like an old noir mystery, like 1950s Los Angeles, where, the detective can kind of get away with everything as long as it's, furthering his cause. And it seems like, honestly, that's the way present day Brazil is. If you have money, you can bribe your way through things, and, people will help you for favors, that kind of thing. It's very gritty. So that's why I set it there, and I did, a ton of research to try and make it genuine.
Now, did you choose that setting in Rio because you've actually been there, or want to go there, or just as in something disconnected from the States that you can make everybody that lives here go, I wonder if it's really like that, or?
I have not been to Brazil. I have been to other countries in South America. I am planning a trip on Brazil, so I guess my research doubled as a travel planning for myself. But
Where
yeah,
did you go in Rio? Not there.
yeah, I actually am planning on boating down the Amazon. So that's staying out of the cities a little bit, but not on a canoe, more on like a. I like to think of it as a Joseph Conrad Heart of Darkness, like a steamer going down the river sort of thing. But we'll see how it turns out. Hopefully, no parasites.
That'd be the one thing I'd be like, nope, no. That's
Yeah,
one
and
thing that scares
there
me.
are a lot of things out there that can end up poorly for you. And I researched those. There's parts of Murdered that you head out into the jungle. And with those over 50 possible endings, I like to get creative. So I know all about the various dangers and that kind of thing.
Now, see, I would think that researching the danger of someplace that I want to go would just spoil that for me. Like leaving milk out on the counter, just like that's gonna turn bad. Anytime now.
Maybe I'm just more foolhardy. I don't know.
I suppose you better know before you actually get down there and go, I have no idea what to do at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
So with superpower, then, I mean, do you read comics, or are you a comic lover, or are you just like the superhero genre thing?
I love the superhero genre. I'm not a regular comic reader. However, to get into this, I read a lot of comics. It's part of the fun for me is basically I just get to take a year of my life and be like, I'm going to be a ridiculous fanboy about this one subject and just read and hail everything that I can possibly get on it. And there are great comics out there. I read a lot of people who are lifelong comic fans often feel shorted that people don't take them seriously as literature or adult entertainment. A lot of people think of comics as for kids, but no, there's a lot of comics that are definitely not for kids, and then there's just brilliant story writing in there. It's it's famous for a reason, but the Watchmen graphic novel series just blew me away. Like there's so much amazing storytelling in there that yeah, blew me away. Is all I can say.
Now, I think you have a good point there. I mean, mainly because I do like comics, but I think most people that are my age or around that same age, like it's not a comic book, it's a graphic novel.
Right.
That makes it legitimate. Like, oh, it's a graphic novel. Sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, there's, I could see a huge difference because I did look at, what comics were like back in the 50s and that kind of thing, and they did not put the storytelling effort into them back then that they do today. There really are epic sagas today, and back then it'd be kind of just a throwaway issue by issue. So it's evolved quite a bit to an impressive art form today.
Yeah, I started collecting when I was like in high school, I think, somewhere around there, and I didn't really collect heavily, but the ones that I could get for cheap were the old ones from the 60s and 70s that nobody really cared about. So I became a really big Green Lantern fan because they seem to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And it had very little point to a lot of the characters that just kind of randomly popped up where I just go, oh my God, I can't believe I just spent money on this. And yeah, let's not have continuity or anything like that, but let's give them some ridiculous names and then we'll just throw them in this mix. But for you, did you focus on a certain, I don't know, genre or a certain character that you're trying to model things through, or the?
No, I'll say my origin story follows the classic science gone awry formula. You're in an experiment that's gone wrong, and that's what gives you your superpowers. So there's a lot of really fun pseudoscience that I use in this, and as far as modeling it off of one particular character, I'd say definitely not. I tried to find the most tried and true tropes that I could, and then have fun with those. So you'll see, especially as a comic fan, you'll probably catch a lot of callbacks and references that I put, as sort of my love letter to the genre, if you will. But yeah, it's basically I just had as much fun as I possibly could, because the way my brain works, while reading a comic book, I'll see the ideas that the person's doing, and I'm like, oh, what if they did this instead? What would that have happened in this comic universe? So I write that down, and then I can use that in my book, because that's just how my brain just goes everywhere, which is probably why these branching storylines work so well for me. That when I come to a point, I'm like, well, the characters could probably do about 7 things right now, so I'll just have them do all of them. I think will probably work out better.
It's like, yep, I'm gonna do all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is a really brilliant idea, and I'm glad that you're. Are there other? I don't even know if there's other authors that do that kind of thing for our age.
I think there might be a couple. I don't think anyone has taken it to the length that I do. My books are about 120,000 words each, so significant novel length books. There are people, I think, who have made adult themed books, but they're still about the same length as the old children's books, because it really, I will say, the more choices you have, the longer the book grows exponentially. I mean, because every time you do a choice, there's an A and B for that, and another choice is an A and B for that. So by the time you're like 5 choices in, I've written 25 chapters just to get you there. So it really takes a lot of juggling and redirecting and that kind of thing to make it not, a 12-volume series just for Infected.
With that in mind, I'm curious, are you ever going to publish something, or do you have something out there where it's kind of like a, I don't know, map, if you will? Like, if you wanted to know all 50 endings, here's your diagram.
I do have those. However, I have not released them. So that's an interesting idea. Could be something I put out on my website for, people who have, I guess, exhausted their efforts and want to see how to get to the real endings.
I always say that because I can see myself going back again and reading these again, and then I'm just going to make like the same shitty choices. Because you're like, no, I'm going to go down that alley. Oh, God, I died. Jesus. And then
well, I'll say anyone watching this, if you think that's a good idea, let me know.
This is like a marketing tool right now.
Yes.
When you were a kid, did you have a series then of these kind of books, or did you grow up liking a whole different type of genre and just decided, like, I always think of these different endings, so I think I want to do this kind of book?
I really enjoyed the Choose Your Own Adventure books. That was my game book of choice as a kid. There were definitely aspects about them that I found frustrating, where, for example, there's one where you're trying to find your uncle in a museum, and there's he's being chased by criminals or something, so it's got some elements of excitement there. But one of the choices, you can go on a delivery van and find him in the truck, but another choice is you can find him like hiding in a mummy sarcophagus in the museum. And even as a kid, I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, why is he in both places at one time? Like, he's either on the truck or he's in the sarcophagus.
This does not make sense.
Yeah. So I will say I read a lot of those early on, and then I moved on to more traditional novels, and it really was just kind of a random conversation with a friend a few years ago that was like, hey, remember those books? Like, has anyone ever tried doing that for an adult? And quick Google search, I'm like, no one has that I can find, so maybe I should.
I think you did a great job, honestly, and I'm looking forward to that third one. And now the first one too, but I know I'm going to get to the third one first, just because I'm a nerd at heart, and I know that's just going to speak to me.
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of something I'm trying to offer, is a little like, you don't have to love every single book, but there's probably going to be a book that speaks to your particular brand of nerddom. So, if you're a zombie fan, Infected. If you're a comic book fan, Superpowered. So I'm cool with that.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people that I've interviewed before, they hold separate jobs, and writing is just kind of the thing that they're working on. Are you one of those people, or are you one that's actually like, I'm writing and I'm holding my own, and this is what I do?
I write full time. So I don't have a secondary job. I used to be in the Air Force, and I would just write on the side all the time, and it was basically the only thing that I felt really happy and satisfied doing. So I decided to take the plunge and, finished my service commitment and then took on writing full time. My wife also works, and I like to say she's the patron of my arts. So, while I am making some income on the books, it's not, I'm not paying the mortgage myself. I have help. And, I am definitely grateful for her to give me that opportunity, but I'm treating it like a full-time job, so I write and market every day, and obviously, like I said, I'm doing tons of research and reading all the time, so it's basically my all-day job. I'm my own boss, try to push myself pretty hard, and yeah, I'm hoping eventually it'll, as I keep getting more titles out, that one day I will be the one saying, hey, why don't you go do whatever you'd like to do, because I've got all the bills covered.
Yeah, I think that's always the end goal that we all have. I mean, writing's fun. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
If you can make it that full-time career where you can go, don't even worry about anything else, I got it.
Yeah, and my dad always tried to instill early on that, if you love what you do, then you're never actually working a day in your life. So I think that's something that really stuck out to me, and it took a while for me to determine, okay, this is something I should be doing full time, and if you treat it like a career, that's how it becomes a career. Is my philosophy.
Awesome. Now, one other thing that I do with my most recent interviewees is I ask them a question, and then they give me a question to ask the next person.
Okay.
This one that's up, it's really one that I usually just add as a staple, so it kind of serves both purposes for me.
Sure.
The essence is, what made you fall in love with writing?
I think just if I have a gift as a writer, it's an overactive imagination. And so even as a kid, I would play video games or watch movies, and then I would create other stories with those characters. And it's a compulsion, really. And the only way those ideas stop coming into my head is if I write them down. So I don't know that I've ever really had much of a choice, but it's one of the definitely few times where I just sort of forget the world and everything is zen and right in my life when I'm writing. So there's your answer.
Now, the funny thing about that is whenever I try and find out from people like why they write or what makes them write, if you look at it on paper and in black and white, every writer sounds like either a psychopath or the opposite of just being, I don't know, an addict. Like, I have to write. I can't stop writing. Or if I don't write, the voices just keep getting louder and louder.
So I get to be both. That's good. That's good.
You're going to synergize all that together.
Yeah.
So now...
I agree.
Now you get the fun task where you can pick a question, any question you want, pop it out there. The next author that I interview has to answer it. Doesn't matter what it is, even if they have to like make up something, anything.
Okay, and so that last one was the question for me from the previous author?
That was, and it also tied, I usually ask what people love or enjoy about writing, and that's basically what Jackie, who was my last interviewee, asked for you.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Okay, let me think. Question, anything I want for the next writer.
It's tough, right?
Okay. Which will come first, teleportation or time travel, and why?
Ooh, see, I wish I was the next interviewee just so I could answer that. But it will be really interesting because the next person I'm interviewing is actually a children's book author.
Nice.
So they'll have to like stretch outside their normal comfort zone and be like, God, now I think.
Yeah, I was about to say, I hope for their sake they're not like a historical romance writer who just never thinks about sci-fi things whatsoever.
If you're on here, you really have to embrace that inner geek and branch out. So
Nice. Definitely. Always growing, right?
Always growing. So, other than that, your superpowered book had just released in May 12th, I think, right?
10th, yes, yes.
Yeah. Sorry. But it's 99 cents right now for the ebook on Amazon. I just looked.
Right. I'm keeping that basically for the first month, so till about the 10th. I think I'm planning on switching it over the 13th because that's the end of that week. So it'll jump up to $3.99, which is my price of my other two books right now. So yeah, Superpowered is still on sale for about 2 more weeks.
So 2 weeks you have to spend $1. I mean, seriously, go buy it. Go buy it if you haven't already. But do you have an idea of when your next one is coming out, or any type of things that your fans can look forward to?
It takes me, my process tends to be about releasing a book every year. So this one might be faster just because I already know all the characters and the world, and so it's going to be a little easier to immerse myself in it. Um, but if you go to my blog, jamesschannep.com, there's a new release mailing list where I do blog about my progress on books and that kind of thing, and possible, I do side projects now and again that I release on the website. So yeah, if you're interested, take a look, subscribe, and you'll find out when it comes out.
Awesome. Now, if there's anybody that's watching, I see that there's 2 viewers down there somewhere. If you have any questions that you want to ask James right now, kick them on to the website. I can actually see them post. Well, it's over on this side of my screen, but they will post up. I can ask him real quick before we wrap things up. And other than that, I guess I'll just ask you a few slightly informal questions until people can decide. But I see that you are a Star Wars fan. Are you looking forward to the new one? Or are you in that realm of like, oh God, here's how they're ruining it?
I was actually just talking about this with a friend earlier this morning. So we went and watched the new Mad Max. Have you seen that one?
I just saw that one on Monday, and I was really impressed with it.
Yeah, definitely. And we watched, the old original 3 as kind of like a prep just for fun because I hadn't seen those in at least a decade. And my ultimate conclusion was that Road Warrior is the best of the original 3 by far. And this one, I feel like, has the exact same. Like, if I were to be watching Road Warrior in 1982, I would be equally as blown away then as I would be, or as I was today watching Fury Road. And that's basically all you can ask for in a sequel in a franchise. And honestly, I think it's probably too big of an order to have the new Star Wars, like, oh yeah, I can imagine it just like Return of the Jedi, back then. But really, as long as it's the lower end bar is be better than the prequels, which shouldn't be that difficult. So really, I'm definitely going to be among the first to see it, but I'm not going to hold my breath that it'll be, among the best of the Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a pretty easy hurdle, I think, to get over the last 3 that were just released, just because I recently rewatched those with my daughter who had never seen it. So I'm like, okay, well, we have to start from the very, very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Even though trying to tell her the order of which everything goes, like, okay, so 4, 5, and 6 actually came out when I was born, and then came these 3, which are actually before those 3, and it was just confusing the hell out of her. So I just went, okay, let's just watch it.
Have you heard of Machete Order?
No.
So it's it's called after some blog that created it, but basically you watch episode 4, then episode 5, and it ends with Luke very much contemplating who his father really is and the universe and that kind of thing. So then from there you skip episode 1 because it doesn't really add anything to the story, and you just watch episodes 2 and 3 as like, here's what really happened as like a prolonged flashback, and then you finish with Return of the Jedi.
Now, see that if I would have known that, that would probably have been a lot more entertaining for her.
Speaking of side projects, I'm actually going to be one of my earlier writing endeavors has been screenwriting, which I still do today. You know, I write scripts and movies as well as prose, but just as a fun fan fiction, I guess, I'm planning on rewriting the prequels to sort of what they should have been, and you know, make that logical sense within the world of Star Wars, and just bring back more of the fun and adventure, and you know, less of what happened to kids to make them evil. So yeah, that's going to be a side project that I'll just put up for free on my website. That's essentially fan fiction / you know, project for learning as far as what makes a good story. But yeah, I'm doing that as a side project. Definitely a huge Star Wars nerd.
I honestly watched the first two and I just went, oh my god. I remember when they came out in the theater and I was just so excited for the prequels to be out. And I think I got glazed over with the whole, oh my god, Star Wars is back, that I didn't really analyze or take a look at the movie itself.
Right.
Now going back for a second, third time, whatever it may be, and watching it, I just kind of go, God, how is this popular? Like,
have you watched the YouTube series by Red Letter Media where he dissects the prequels?
I haven't yet, no.
You should do that. He is kind of weird, so just go through the first few minutes, but he has some of the smartest things as to why the prequels don't work and exactly what the problems are. That it takes your brain, which is just going, oh, this doesn't feel right, and then actually manages to, you know, organize, you know, your thoughts is how I felt. He was organizing my thoughts for me. I was like, yeah, that is why I didn't like that. So it's worth a viewing for sure.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. I mean, I'm always up for trying to analyze, like, why did that suck so much? I mean, beyond the obvious, something just wasn't clicking the same way. And I didn't know if it was because I'm not a kid anymore and I loved Star Wars because that's what I grew up, you know, becoming enthralled with, and this and that, or if it was just character basis and all that crappiness that came with it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the seventh one, and I don't know why people had such an issue with so many different things. I think there's just too much opinion available for
for a minute of footage.
Yeah, it's like, it's a minute. Jesus, be happy that there's another one coming out. I don't care if Disney puts it out or, you know, somebody puts it out in their garage. I don't care. It's Star Wars. I don't know.
Nice.
But other than that, I mean, I do look forward to reading your book, and the whole series is going to be awesome. I can already tell anybody who's watching it or watching this right now, I read the second one, and out of the 3 genres that you have out there, that would probably be ranked my third one. Not that it's bad. It's just more like it would go superpowers, zombie apocalypse, and then, okay, yeah, murder mystery. So that's just me, but it's great writing. And like you said, there's 50 possible endings. I went through one, and for me, it was just like I died. Like, God, I don't want to start all over. I don't want to go back a chapter. I'm just gonna read it all over again. So that's what I think is really great about your books, is just that the readability factor in it is probably 10 times more than what like my book would be. Like, you read my book once and you go, okay, it's done. Your book, I can go, okay, that's one of them. And I can go back and go, there's another one.
Yeah, I like to call it a book with replay value.
You definitely have the replay factor going for you, that's for sure. So anybody that's tuned in or is watching this later on, thank you for tuning in. James, thanks for your time this morning. And thanks for putting out these books for adults again. I'm glad that we can bring this one back and resurface it.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. It was a good time.
And if anybody has a question later on or watching this later on and wants to ask a question, just leave it in the comments below. I can relay it back to James and we'll get you an answer.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer on the invite page or wherever it's going to end up.
It'll be here on Google Plus, and it'll be out on my YouTube channel. I will probably put all the links I can for James down below once I can do a little editing handiwork. And then go follow him. He's on Twitter. He's on WordPress. He's where else? Or you're on Facebook, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, those are the big 3.
Those are the top 3. The rest of them you will find eventually. So thank you for your time again, and thanks for everybody tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right, thank you.